And since it's Saturday night,
Ooh, how
we have to start with a good old folksy song.
For the good old folks. A sailor loves a gallant ship and shipmates bold and free, and never welcomes with delight Saturday night at sea. Saturday night at sea, my boys, Saturday night at sea. Let all the gallant sailor lads sing Saturday night at sea.
Feel free to say "R" whenever you wish.
1 hour each week we snatch from cares as through the world we roam, to think of dear ones far away and all the joys of home. Saturday night at sea, my boys, Saturday night at sea. Let all the gallant sailor lads sing Saturday night at sea. Those bright beings who bedeck with joy our lives, and raise a prayer to heaven to bless our sweethearts and our wives. Saturday night at sea, my boys, Saturday night at sea. Let all the gallant sailor lads sing Saturday night at sea. I said now Saturday night at sea, my boys, Saturday night at sea. Let all the gallant sailor lads sing Saturday night at sea.
Thank you so much.
Short nights at sea.
It has been our great good pleasure for these many years to resurrect and to bring back the songs of the 19th century, in some cases the 18th century, and sailing songs, songs of the sailors, songs of the sea, and songs that they sang about the land have always been a big part of our repertoire, being immersed as we have been in the Civil War, the war between the states. We like to honor those men of the North and the South, and women too, who fought in this conflict. And in particular, we love the songs that have an actual historical significance, not just general songs about food or girls or what's happening here and there. But this next song is about one very important part of the Confederate Navy. As you know, the Confederates did not have a very large navy at all.
Much of it was underwater.
Yes, for a good deal of the time. But they relied not so much on battleships of warships like this, but on commerce raiders like the Shenandoah and the Florida, and in particular one called the Alabama. I'm sure you've heard of that one, being so close to Phoenix City and folks across the water there. She met her demise off the coast of Cherbourg, France. Now the Alabama had cruised into Cherbourg, France to unload her supplies, and that she had pilfered illegally from those Yankee ships. And the USS warship, the Kearsarge, found out that the Alabama was in port there. And of course, the Kearsarge, being a United States vessel, could not sail into the port of a neutral country and start shooting up a ship that was there. That would have meant war with France, something that the country didn't need at that time as well. So, quite gentlemanly, the captain of the Kearsarge sent a note into the captain of the Alabama and said, "Bring your ship out beyond the 3-mile limit. We'll wait for you out there, and we'll fight it out ship to ship." Folks of Cherbourg, France, scurried up to the bluffs overlooking the harbor and watched as the famous battle between the Kearsarge and the Alabama took place. The fight was immortalized in song and story, and one of those songs is one that we like to do. It's quite rightly called Alabama. Your part of this is Roll, Alabama, Roll, unless you're from Auburn.
When the Alabama's keel was laid, roll, Alabama, roll. It was laid in the yard of Jonathan Laird. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll. It was laid in the yard of Jonathan Laird. Roll, Alabama, roll. It was laid in the town of Birkenhead. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll. Down the Mersey way she rolled it then. Roll, Alabama, roll. Liverpool fitted her with guns and men. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll. From the Western Isles she sailed forth. Roll, Alabama, roll. To destroy the commerce of the North. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll. To Cherbourg port she sailed one day. Roll, Alabama, roll. To take her count of prize money. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll. a sailor lad foresaw his doom. Roll, Alabama, roll, when the Kearsarge hove in view. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll. A ball from the forward pivot that day. Roll, Alabama, roll. Shot the Alabama stern away. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll. Off the 3-mile limit in '64. Roll, Alabama, roll. The Alabama sank to the ocean floor. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll. When the Alabama's keel was laid. Roll, Alabama, roll. It was laid in the yard of Jonathan Laird. Oh, roll, Alabama, roll.
Our mateys, give yourselves a fine hand. A fine hand indeed.
And now, oh, there we are. I see it now. Your handwriting leaves much to be desired.
Thank you kindly.
When a sailor was out at sea, should he happen to spy a mermaid, no matter how beautiful she might be, he was always saddened by the experience. Because every good sailor knew that a mermaid meant his certain death. Every sailor knew that a mermaid was an omen.
A real omen?
Half omen, half fish.
It was Friday morn when we set sail, and we were not so far from the land, when our captain he spied a mermaid so fair, with a comb and a glass in her hand.
Here's the chorus.
Oh, the ocean waves do roll, and the stormy winds do blow, and we brave tars go skipping through the tops, while the landlubbers lie down below, 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 while the landlubbers lie down below. Then up spoke the captain of our gallant ship, and a fine old sailor was he. This fishy mermaid has warned me of our doom. We shall sink to the bottom of the sea.
Sing with us.
Oh, the ocean waves do roll, and the stormy winds do blow, and we brave tars go skipping through the tops, while the landlubbers lie down below, 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 while the landlubbers lie down below. Then up spoke the mate of our gallant ship, and a well-spoken sailor was he. Oh, I have a wife in Plymouth by the sea, and tonight a widow she shall be.
Poor woman.
Oh, the ocean waves do roll, and the stormy winds do blow, and we brave tars go skipping through the tops, while the landlubbers lie down below, 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 while the landlubbers lie down below. Then up spoke the cabin boy of our gallant ship, and a brave young sailor was he. Oh, I have a sweetheart in Salem by the sea, and tonight she'll be weeping for me.
Ho, 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 ho.
Oh, the old
His voice was changing.
waves do roll, and the stormy winds do blow, and we brave tars go skipping through the tops, while the landlubbers lie down below, 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 while the landlubbers lie down below. Then up spoke the cook of our gallant ship, and a crazy old butcher was he.
For a squid.
I care much more for me pots and me pans than I do for the bottom of the sea. Oh, the ocean waves do roll, and the stormy winds do blow, and we brave tars go skipping through the tops, while the landlubbers lie down below, 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 while the landlubbers lie down below.
Choreography.
And then 3 times around us spun our gallant ship. Yes, 3 times around spun.
Come on now, he thought of that himself.
And 3 times around us spun our gallant ship, and she sank to the bottom of the sea.
Glum, 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 glum.
Oh, the ocean waves do roll, and the stormy winds do blow, and we brave tars go skipping through the tops, while the landlubbers lie down below, 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 while the landlubbers lie down below.
Our meetings. Turn my hat around the right way. Oh. And now, It just occurred to me that some of you are singing, and I think some of them are not singing. Are you keeping tabs on who's not singing here? We're taking names down here, you know. Well, it might be because some of you are not real sailors. Do we have any real sailors here? Any Navy folks here? Men or women? Raise a hand now. There's one there, the shy one in the back. Well, there's the reason, fellas. We don't have so many sailors. Let's make all of you honorary sailors. Everybody wants to be a sailor. That's a kid's dream, and here you can have your dream come true. All you have to do is pass the sailor's test. It's a 3-part test, and each part counts equally in this test, and there's no recounts. Even though we're from Florida, there's no recounts. So don't even get your hopes up on that. You have to pass all parts of the test here. First part of the test is learning to salute. Every good sailor knows how to salute. So come on, sit up straight in your seats now. Come on, no slouching down. This is a test here. Okay, when I count to 3, I want everybody here to salute. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ow! Did you hurt yourself again? Keep your thumb in. That's the secret to good saluting. The second part of the test is learning how to pipe the admiral on board. And it's a whistle, and it goes like this. Try that. Ooh, try it again. Well, I guess the admiral can catch the next boat. Well, I'll give you a passing grade on that one at least. But the third part of the test is learning one word of sailor talk. And with this one word, you can make yourself understood on the deck of any 3-masted ship.
This is a family show now.
Oh, well, that's okay. Sailors came from families, too, you know. And sometimes they went back to them. But you can make yourself understood on the deck of any 3-masted sailing ship, still applying the 7 seas. This one word embodies the entire sailor experience. Repeat after me. R! R! Give me an R! R! Give me an R! R! What does it spell? R. Of course it spells R. Good heavens, sailors weren't so good on spelling. And now, the merchant navy, mainly the whalemen. Before they learned to save the whales, we killed them and put them in bottles and lighted the lamps of China with their oils. But it was a fine and gallant industry that built America's navies up. And most of those whales were caught in the whaling grounds in the North Pacific. Believe it or not, if you've never been there, it's very, very cold there, especially during the whaling season. So the sailors would have 5 or 6 months of plying these whaling grounds in the worst possible conditions. But when their hold was full, when they were ready to give up, when the captain gave the word, they sailed south to the South Pacific, to their favorite port of rest and recreation, Old Maui. You know where that is? It's in the Sandwich Islands. That's what Captain Cook called them. It was his name for what we now call the Hawaiian Islands. So are you ready? R, that's good. Now I want you to think of something nautical. You've seen your old Long John Silver movie. So I want you to be ready to holler out something nautical when I ask for it. Once more we'll sail with the northern gale all around the northern main, and now the shores of the tropic isles we seem to see again. 5 sluggish moons have waxed and waned since from the shore sailed we, and now we're bound from the Arctic round, rolling down to old Maui, rolling down to old Maui, me boys, down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic round, rolling down to old Maui. Get aloft there, you scully noggers, more canvas, I say. Lay on the poopsel, gypsel, now shout out something nautical here. No, something besides our. Abandoned ship? No, what kind of swabby are you now? Too many a blow of frost and snow and bitter squalls of hail. Wait a minute, what kind of scurvy crew is this now? Here we are becalmed, not a breeze to be seen, the sails hanging limp there, and you all just standing around there. Good heavens. Well, I know what. Whenever in the song I mention gales or wind or blowing or anything like that, I want you all to make wind noises. Go. Through many a blow of frost and snow and bitter squalls of hail, our spars were bent and our canvas rent as we braved the northern gale. The horrid isles of icy tiles that dot the Arctic Sea are many, many leagues drinks astern on the way to old Maui. Sing now! Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic round, going down to old Maui. Through many a blow of frost and snow, our good ship tore the way. And in the midst of the moonbeams mist, we slept in Slinghorn's Bay. And many's the day we whiled away on the cold Kamchatka Sea. But we'll think on that as we laugh and chat with the girls of old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, down to old Maui. We're homeward bound from the Arctic round, going down to old Maui. Get aloft there, you scallynoggers! Hoist the gypsum, clew up the binnacle, help me out here. Belay there! What else? Batten the hatches. More. Avast! What? Land ahoy! Arr! There she blows, that's a good one. An ample share of toil and care we whalemen undergo, and what care we at the journey's end how the bitter winds did blow. We are homeward bound with a joyful sound, and yet it may not be. But we'll think on that as we laugh and chat with the girls of old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, down to old Maui. We'll think on that as we laugh and chat with the girls of old Maui. Rolling down to old Maui, me boys, down to old Maui. We're homeward bound with a joyful sound, rolling down to old Maui. Hoist up the top sheet and spanker. And that's Nautical. Oh.
Well, we've done a lot of sailor songs about being at sea, but, the sailors also came into port. And being, very bored of being stuck on ship, they would, take all their revenues and they would divide them up. And so they made sure they spend just enough money on every certain thing that they wanted to do. So they would spend about 1/3 of their money on liquor. And then they would spend about 1/3 of their money on women. And, well, the last third they just kind of wasted. Such is the tale of this next song. As I walked down on Broadway one morning in July, a fair young maid, she asked my trade, a sailor man, says I. And away, oh Sandy, my dear Annie, oh, you New York girls, can't you dance the polka? To Tiffany's I took her, I did not mind expense. I bought her 2 gold earrings, they cost me 15 cents. Woo! And away, oh Sandy, my dear Annie, oh, you New York girls, can't you dance the polka? I wined her and I dined her as round town we went, until that every farthing I had on me was spent. And away, oh Sandy, my dear Annie, oh, you New York girls, can't you dance the polka? She said, "You're like a sailor, now take me home you may." But when we reached the cottage door, she did undo me say. And away, oh Sandy, my dear Annie, oh, you New York girls, can't you dance the polka? My flashman is a Yankee, with his hair cut short behind. He wears a Tory jumper, he sails a blackball line. And away, oh Sandy, my dear Annie, oh, you New York girls, can't you dance the polka? He's homeward bound this evening, and with me he will stay. So get a move on, sailor boy, get cracking on your way. And away, oh Sandy, my dear Annie, oh, you New York girls, can't you dance the polka? So I kissed her hard and proper before her flashman came. And fare you well, me Beauregard, I know your little game. And away, oh Sandy, my dear Annie, oh, you New York girls, can't you dance the polka? And I wrapped me glad rags round me, and to the docks did steer. I'll never court another maid, I'll stick to rum and beer. And away, oh Sandy, my dear Annie, oh, you New York girls, can't you dance the polka? And away, oh Sandy, my dear Annie, oh, you New York girls, can't you dance the polka?
all sailors were cut from that particular cloth.
No?
My great uncle was a fine sailor. He was sailed the seas for 40 years. A ship's captain he became, ship's captain, and you know he was married, a lovely wife for all of that time. You know, it was an interesting thing about him. He would, whenever he would leave on a voyage, which sometimes would take months and months, he would always draw himself up to his full height in the doorway and call his wife to him and say, "Darling wife," and she would rush to his side. "I'm bound for the sea once again. I want you to promise me that while I'm away for however long it takes, that make this promise to me, darling wife, that under no circumstances while I'm away will you look in the 2 trunks that I keep in the bedroom. Promise me that." And being a dutiful wife, she would promise that, and off he would go, satisfied. And this went on for 40 years. 40 years, and she never, ever looked in those trunks. What a wife she was. Amazing. And came the time, though, that they both knew that this would be his very last voyage. He was going to retire after this as a captain from all those years on the seas. But still, he drew himself up to his full height and said, "Darling wife, I'm going away this time for the very last time, and I want you to promise me, as you have all these other times, that under no circumstances will you look in the 2 trunks that I keep in the bedroom." She promised once again. And off he went. But this time, no sooner was he round the corner out of sight, bound for his ship, than the poor woman could stand it no longer. 40 years of curiosity had overcome the darling thing. She rushed to the bedroom as fast as she could, found where he kept the keys, unlocked the first trunk, opened the first trunk, looked inside. The only thing in that trunk was 3 ears of corn. She looked at the ears of corn. Ordinary corn. She saw nothing special about it. Put them back, closed the lid, locked that trunk, went to the second trunk, opened that one, and her eyes got big as saucers, because that trunk was almost heaping full with gold and silver coins from all over. A fortune amassed in 40 years sailing 7 seas. She could hardly catch her breath, but she managed to close the trunk, lock it, and wait until her darling husband returned from the sea. And one day he did. Several months later he came home and put his cap on the hat rack, his brand new hat rack that had been a birthday gift, you know. And he put his cap on there, and he drew himself up to his full height and said, "Darling wife, I'm home from the sea for the very last time. Come and embrace me." And she flew to his side, wrapped her arms around him, and smothered him with kisses. And then she broke down, the poor woman. She couldn't contain her secret. No. She fell back and wiped her eyes with her apron and said, "Oh, darling husband, I'm afraid I've looked in those 2 trunks." "No," he said, "you haven't looked in the 2 trunks." She said, "Yes, I have looked, and I have some questions for you. Why are there 3 ears of corn in there?" And he says, "Well, darling wife, you know, it's said that a sailor has a girl in every port, and you know, it can be true. It can be true, because when we sailors unload our cargo and then go ashore for shore leave, these beautiful young girls throw themselves on us and try to get us to be unfaithful to our wives and sweethearts back home. And the temptation is great, especially for a handsome sea dog like myself. I have been sorely tempted. But, darling wife, I want you to know that for every time in 40 years that I gave in to temptation, every time I would come home and put 1 ear of corn in that trunk." And she broke down and cried again. "Oh, darling husband, oh, that's so wonderful." Smothered him with kisses again. And he said, "Well, don't you want to know about the trunk full of gold and silver?" She said, "Oh, yes, it's a fortune, yes." He said, "Well, you know, every time I got a bushel of corn, I sold it." A true story.
What a businessman.
Let's have a chanty now, okay? And you get to clap along with this one as well as sing. And it's about a sailor's favorite drink. No, not Captain Crunch lemonade. Almost. Close. Grog. See, they all know better than you, sailor.
Captain Crunch lemonade. Where do you get this stuff?
Out of the thin ether.
And it's all for me grog, me jolly, jolly grog. Hung on for beer and tobacco. Well, I spent all me tin down at South Street drinking gin. Now across the western ocean we must wander. Where is me hat, me noggin hat? all gone for beer and tobacco. The brim is wore out, and the crown is kicked about, and me hair is looking out for better weather.
Sing now.
And it's all for me grog, me jolly, jolly grog. All gone for beer and tobacco. I spent all me tin down a South Street drinking gin. Now across the Western Ocean we must wander. Where is me shirt, me noggin shirt? All gone for beer and tobacco. The sleeves all wore out, and the collar's kicked about, and me tails is looking out for better weather.
Sing all now.
And it's all for me grog, me jolly, jolly grog. All gone for beer and tobacco. I spent all me tin down in South Street drinking gin. Now across the Western Ocean we must wander. Where are me pants, me noggin pants? All gone for beer and tobacco. The cuffs all wore out, and the fly is kicked about, and me hands looking out for better weather. And it's all for me grog, me jolly, jolly grog. All gone for beer and tobacco. I spent all me tin down in South Street drinking gin. Now across the Western Ocean we must wander. Where are me boots,
Me
noggin boots? All gone for beer and tobacco. The soles all wore out, and the heels are kicked about, and me toes is looking out for better weather. And it's all for me grog, me jolly, jolly grog. All gone for beer and tobacco. I spent all me tin down in South Street drinking gin. Now across the Western Ocean we must wander. I'm sick and stony broke, and I'm parted from me smoke, and the sky is looking blacker than the thunder. And the tavern keeper too, for I haven't got a sou. That's the way you're treated when you're out in yonder. And it's all for me grog, me jolly, jolly grog. All gone for beer and tobacco. I spent all me tin down in South Street drinking gin. Now across the Western Ocean we must wander. I'm sick to me head, and I haven't been to bed since first we came ashore with all me plunder. I see centipedes and snakes, and I'm full of pains and aches, and I guess we better push out over yonder. And it's all for me grog, me jolly, jolly grog. All gone for beer and tobacco. I spent all me tin down in South Street drinking gin. Now across the Western Ocean we must wander.
Arr, mateys. One of our favorite songwriters of the Civil War era, and believe it or not, there were many, many songwriters, fellows like George F. Root and Stephen Foster, fellows who actually made a living writing music during that time period. It's Henry Clay Work wrote such wonderful songs as Marching Through Georgia, with apologies to the Confederates in the crowd here. He wrote that, and My Grandfather's Clock was one of his, quite a few others, and this one in particular, which as you're going to explain.
Well, we think that Henry probably wrote this particular song to help celebrate the end of the war. A lot of the songwriters did that sort of thing. They'd compose a special piece of music for the help celebrate. We don't know it for a fact, but just the general tone of the song and when it was published makes it very likely that's what he had in mind as he wrote this piece.
We use it to celebrate the end of our first set.
Right.
Belfry, the old sexton stands, grasping the rope with his thin bony hands. Fixed is his gaze as by some magic spell, till he hears the distant murmur ring. Ring the bell, watchman, ring, ring, ring. Yes, yes, the good news is now on the wing. Yes, yes, they come, and with tidings to tell, glorious and blessed tidings. Ring, ring the bell, bearing his long silver locks to the breeze. First for a moment he drops on his knees, then with a vigor that few could excel, answers he the welcome bidding ring. Ring the bell, watchman, ring, ring, ring. Yes, yes, the good news is now on the wing. Yes, yes, they come, and with tidings to tell, glorious and blessed tidings. Ring, ring the bell. Hear from the hilltop the first signal gun. Thunder the word that some great deed is done. Hear through the valley that long echo swell, ever and anon repeating. Ring, ring the bell, watchman. Ring, yes, yes, the good news is now on the wing. Yes, yes, they come, and with tidings to tell, glorious and blessed tidings. Ring, ring the bell.
So ends the first set. We'll be back after a brief hiatus here with some more music for y'all. Hope you stick around for that as well.
Ring the bell, watchman. Ring, yes, yes, the good news is now on the wing. Yes, yes, they come, and with tidings to tell, glorious and blessed tidings. Ring, ring the bell. Bonfires are blazing and rockets ascend. No meager triumph such tokens portend. Shout, shout, my brothers, but all is well. 'Tis the universal chorus. Ring, ring the bell, watchman. Ring, yes, yes, the good news is now on the wing. Yes, yes, they come, and with tidings to tell, glorious and blessed tidings. Ring, ring the bell, watchman. Ring, yes, yes, the good news is now on the wing. Yes, yes, they come, and with tidings to tell, glorious and blessed tidings. Ring the bell, glorious and blessed tidings. Ring the bell, glorious and blessed tidings. Ring the bell.
Thank you so much. We'll be back in about 10 minutes.
When actually there are very few sea shanties that are indigenous to the United States, because by the time the United States finally got its navy together, its merchant fleet, all the other nations of the world had used up the really good sea shanties. But there were still a few good ones left. Actually, I think this next one that we're going to do is the best of all the sea shanties. Although from what I understand, it did not start out as a sea shanty. It started out as a song about the fur trade in the backwoods country of America. Somehow it worked its way down to the ocean shore, and the sailors got it, took it out to sea with them, made it one of their favorite songs, worked on it, tinkered with it, adjusted it. All along the path that the song took, all along its travels, it got changed and modified. The original river name in the song, from what I understand, was the Ohio River. That got changed. Hopefully what we do for you right now is what the song would have sounded like around. Oh, Shenandoah, I love your daughter. Away, rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, I want your daughter. Away, I'm bound away across the wide Missouri.
Sing with us, won't you, please?
The trader loved the Indian maiden. Away, rolling river. His canoe with dollars laden. Away, I'm bound away across the wide Missouri. The chief disdained the trader's dollars. Away, rolling river. My daughter you shall never follow. Away, I'm bound away across the wide Missouri. He gave the chief some fire water. Away, rolling river. And across the river he stolen his daughter. Away, I'm bound away across the wide Missouri. Oh, Shenandoah, you've lost your daughter.
away, rolling river. She's gone where you can't follow. Away, I'm bound away across the wide Missouri. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to hear you. Away, rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to see you. Away, I'm bound away across the wide Missouri.
Well, we have a somewhat special treat for you at absolutely no expense and in great personal embarrassment. We have asked this strange young man who just came out of nowhere here. We don't even know him. We've never met him before. Greg Starbuck, who works here, over here, here you are, at the museum. Do you prefer to sit down over there? You can sit down. He is quite a notable musician himself. He has an album out with another fellow, not us, but and before he gave all that up, gave up the glamorous life of show business, following behind the elephants with the broom, you know, show business.
Well, he's not far from where he was.
Well, that's true. No, he's
So
right
we're in front of
there.
the elephant now. Where are we going in all of this?
Well, we're going to Rovin is where we're going.
Oh, okay. We're jumping one.
Yeah.
Huh?
Well,
All right.
Oh, are we did no.
That's
Oh,
okay.
we are. Yeah,
That's
we'll
okay.
do
We
that.
can go
No,
ahead and
that'll
do
be
this
perfect.
and
That'll
we'll
be perfect.
catch back up with here.
We'll
Go-
catch up.
go on.
We'll let him start it off with just a little squeeze box,
Hopefully
okay?
it's in tune with what we got
We
here.
don't care.
How do I tune this thing?
He-
I'll let you set the tempo.
We do this in G, by the way, just in case. Surprise! This is a gang sing as well, too.
In Amsterdam I met a maid, mark well what I do say. In Amsterdam I met a maid, and she was mistress of her trade. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving, since roving's been my ruin. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. I took this maiden for a walk, mark well what I do say. I took this maiden for a walk, I gave her whiskey, didn't she talk? I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair
Sing ya,
maid.
scallynuggers.
A-roving, since roving's been my ruin. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. She said, you sailors, I love you so, mark well what I do say. All you sailors, I love you so, the reason why I soon didn't know. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving, since roving's been my ruin. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. She placed her hand upon my toe, mark well what I do say. She placed her hand upon my toe, I said, young miss, you're rather low. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving, since roving's been my ruin. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. She placed her hand upon my knee, mark well what I do say. She placed her hand upon my knee, I said, young miss, you're rather free. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving, since roving's been my ruin. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. She placed her hand upon my thigh, mark well what I do say. She placed her hand upon my thigh, I said, young miss, you're rather high. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving, since roving's been my ruin. I'll go no more a-roving.
Take it there,
with
concert
you,
tunings.
fair maid.
for the stomach Steinway.
She laid her head upon my chest, mark well what I do say. She laid her head upon my chest, we did the dance, she does the best. I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving, since roving's in my Ruai, and I'll go no more a-roving. Try it on a mandolin, fair maid. Verses go that we can't sing in a family audience.
There are no other verses.
I gave this miss a parting kiss, mark well what I do say. I gave this miss a parting kiss when I got on board. My money I miss, I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving, since roving's been my Ruai, and I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid. A-roving, since roving's been my Ruai, and I'll go no more a-roving with you, fair maid.
Our mateys.
Very good.
Greg Starbuck on the concert tuning.
And
Wonderful.
We'll be selling audio clippets of the other verses for 25 cents after the
Yes,
show.
and we'll sell all the prints of Greg playing the squeeze box on stage. We'll be selling probably those prints to him. Well, we did mention that grog was a sailor's favorite concoction, and it's true, and especially when there was no other liquor on board. But comes now our sad duty to sing a very sad song of the worst naval disaster to befall the Union Navy during the Civil War. Professor?
Yes. There was a daily ration of grog that was issued to the men under Navy regulations at the beginning of the war, which may have been why some of the guys enlisted. Grog, which is, I think, 7 parts water to 1 part rum, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you don't have anything else, anything's good. That was up until September of 1862. At that time, probably because of the temperance movement in the United States catching on and around the world as well, and people starting to look more and more on rum and spirituous drinks as being evil things, they decided to outlaw the liquor ration. That there would, as of September the 1st of 1862, there would be no further ration of liquor to any of the Navy personnel, which meant that on August the 31st of that same year, there was one really big party as they tried to drink up all of the liquor before it had to be dumped over the side and wasted. This song was composed for that actual incident and was probably sung for the first time at one of the many drinking sessions that was going on. Come messmates, pass the bottle round, our time is short, remember, but our grog must stop and our spirits drop on the first day of September. For tonight we'll merry, merry be, for tonight we'll merry, merry be, for tonight we'll merry, merry be, tomorrow we'll be sober. Farewell, oh ride, is a sad, sad word, but alas, it must be spoken, for the ruby cup must be given up, and the demijohn be broken. For tonight we'll merry, merry be, for tonight we'll merry, merry be, for tonight we'll merry, merry be, tomorrow we'll be sober. Jack's happy days will soon be gone to return again, oh never, for they've raised his pay 5 cents a day, but stopped his grog forever. For tonight we'll merry, merry be, for tonight we'll merry, merry be, for tonight we'll merry, merry be, tomorrow we'll be sober. Then memory oft will backwards turn and dwell with fondness partial on the days when gin was not a sin nor cocktails but court-martial. For tonight we'll merry, merry be, for tonight we'll merry, merry be, for tonight we'll merry, merry be, tomorrow we'll be sober. All hands to splice the main brace call, but splice it now in sorrow, for the spirit room key will be laid away forever on tomorrow. For tonight we'll merry, merry be, for tonight we'll merry, merry be, for tonight we'll merry, merry be, tomorrow we'll be sober. For tonight we'll merry, merry be, for tonight we'll merry, merry be, for tonight we'll merry, merry be, tomorrow we'll be sober.
And remember, it's just as easy to get drunk on water as it is on land.
Seems like it.
Thank you.
crowd's
Thank
turning
you so
ugly.
much.
Didn't know you spoke French, did you?
Here's a traditional.
Well, when the sailor was out at sea, the captain's word was law, and whatever the captain wanted to do with the sailors was pretty much his right to do. Consequently, you did not, and it was really tough to keep a crew of really rough and tumble guys under control. So the captains didn't brook any kind of talk back or any kind of insubordination. Either you did what he said or you're liable to get hanged or worse. So while you were on board ship, you were not allowed to voice any complaints very much. Now, the exception to this was in song, particularly on the final voyage home, leaving harbor for the last time on your voyage home, or when you arrived at your final destination harbor. There was a collection of various songs called leaving songs that allowed the sailor to vent a lot of their pent-up frustrations at the end of the voyage over what had gone on before.
Now the times were hard and the wages were low. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. And now once more ashore we'll go, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. Now she would not wear and she would not stay. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. She shipped green seas both night and day, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. It was rotten meat and weevilly bread. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Eat it or starve, the old man said, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. Now the winds were foul and the work was hard. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. From Liverpool dock to the Brooklyn yard, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. Now the sails are all furled and the work is all done. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. And homeward now we've made our run, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. Now it's time for us to say goodbye. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. The old pier head is drawing nigh, and it's time for us to leave her. Leave her, Johnny, leave her. Oh, leave her, Johnny, leave her. For the voyage is done and the winds don't blow, and it's time for us to leave her. 'Twas off the blue Canary Isles one glorious summer's day. I sat upon the quarter-deck and whiffed my cares away. And as the volume smoke arose like incense on the air, I breathed a sigh to think, in sooth, it was my last cigar. It was my last cigar. It was my last cigar. I breathed a sigh to think, in sooth, it was my last cigar. I leaned upon the quarter rail and looked down in the sea. In there the purple wreath of smoke was curling gracefully.
Oh, what had I at such a time to do with wasting care? Alas, the trembling tear proclaimed, it was my last cigar. It was my last cigar. It was my last cigar. I breathed a sigh to think, in sooth, it was my last cigar. I watched it as the ashes came fast drawing to the end. I watched it as a friend would watch beside a dying friend. But still the flame crept slowly on, it vanished into air. I threw it from me, spare the tale, it was my last cigar. It was my last cigar. It was my last cigar. I breathed a sigh to think, in sooth, it was my last cigar. I've seen the land of all I love fade in the distance dim. I've watched above the blighted heart where once proud hope had been. But I've never known a sorrow that could with that compare. When off the blue Canary Isles I smoked my last cigar. It was my last cigar. It was my last cigar. I breathed a sigh to think, in sooth, it was my last cigar. It was my last cigar. It was my last cigar. I breathed a sigh to think that I had smoked my last cigar.
How sad.
Once again, speaking of the older songs and in older times, this one comes from the Revolutionary War period, during which time at the beginning of the Revolutionary War, the United States had no particular naval ships, no big ships of the line to go out and try to fight the British Navy, which was, of course, the world's best Navy at the time.
Oh, yeah.
The British Navy was the best Navy.
Sure.
And all we had was a few crummy little boats. But they tricked out and rigged out some of those, and basically they told the captains that go out and sink whatever you can and bring back whatever you can, and we'll say it's okay, you'll be one of our guys, and we'll give you a letter of marque, I think it was, or something like that.
And they won't
basically,
hang you for pirates.
Yeah, you won't be a pirate because you'll be a privateer. You'll be, well, it was the first outsourcing, I guess, government privatization. And privateers is what they were called. Now, unfortunately, in keeping with the tradition of folk music, the actual ship named in this, which there was an actual incident that this is based on, but that particular ship was not actually a privateer. It was a full-fledged naval ship. But we'll gloss over that. Gee, I think so. I hope so.
We sailed and we kept good cheer, for not a British frigate could o'ercome the privateer. We sailed and we kept good cheer, for not a British frigate could o'ercome the privateer. Come listen and I'll tell you how first I went to sea to fight against the British and win our liberty. We shipped with Captain Whipple, who never knew a fear, the captain of the Providence, a Yankee privateer. We sailed and we kept good cheer, for not a British frigate could o'ercome the privateer. We sailed to the southward and suddenly did meet 3 British frigates convoyed to a vast Indian fleet. Old Whipple put our lights out and crawled upon their rear, and not a soul suspected the Yankee privateer. We sailed and we kept good cheer, for not a British frigate could o'ercome the privateer. For 10 long nights we followed, and ere the moon arose, each night a prize we captured beneath the lion's nose. And when the British looked to see why ships should disappear, they found they had in convoy a Yankee privateer. We sailed and we kept good cheer, for not a British frigate could o'ercome the privateer. British frigate bore round to give us chase, but though we were the fleeter, old Whipple didn't race. Before he'd raked them fore and aft, the lubbers couldn't steer, and then he showed the foe the heels of the Yankee Privateer. We sailed and we sailed and we kept good cheer, for not a British frigate could o'ercome the privateer. We sailed and we sailed and we kept good cheer, for not a British frigate could o'ercome the privateer. We sailed and we sailed and we kept good cheer, for not a British frigate could o'ercome the privateer.
Let's talk about that first sailor, shall we? Brother Noah. Brother Noah, the very first sailor. And you know, it was on just a lovely day such as we've had today, beautiful weather, when the Lord spoke unto Noah, did he not? And he said, Noah, go build an ark. And Noah believed him, and he went and built the biggest old, bestest old ark he ever saw. And then the Lord spoke unto Noah and said, Noah, get ye forth and gather all the animals of the fields and the beasts of the forest, and 2 by 2, male and female of each species, and bring them on board the ark, because I'm going to make it rain. And Noah did that. He gathered them all, and he took the great animals, the giraffes and elephances and rhinoceropses, and the little ones, the hummingbugs, and all the little things, and they herded them onto this ark. And there was even snakes. Did you know that? There was 2 snakes crawling up the plank of the ark, and they was almost inside when they stopped. And one snake looked at the other and said, Say, is we poisonous? And the other snake said, No, we ain't poisonous. And the first snake said, Well, that's good, because I just bit my lip. And then crawled in there and then slammed that ark, boom, shut, and pitched her all up and tarred her up, because just in time, didn't it rain? Didn't it rain? Oh, the rain come down. Pretty soon, it wasn't but a little while before that ark was the only thing left on the whole earth, and the whole firmament was a-moving and shaking up and down the waves, and the whole ark full of those animals, the great ones in the bottom and the little ones at the top and the medium-sized ones in the middle, and all those animals. And Brother Noah realized after about 2 days that he had forgotten to bring along the most essential item necessary for a voyage with all those animals in that terrible tossing sea.
A shovel.
No, he had plenty of shovels.
I hope so.
Pine tree air freshener.
No, he had plenty of them little pine tree air fresheners too. What Brother Noah had forgotten to bring along was his 97th Regimental String Band tape. He had forgotten to bring along music to soothe the savage beasts. You know, and didn't you know he was out on a limb for the other 38 days right there, because he'd left his 97th Regimental String Band tape on his dresser that morning just before he left. And you know, if he'd have had that, why, that voyage of 40 days and 40 nights would have just seemed like the Love Boat, you know, instead of this tossing and turning, mooing and bleating, and because those animals would have just been bouncing around. You know, so the Jungle Book and all that ain't even in it, you know, with this stuff like this. My message to you is, I don't want you to end up like our first sailor, Brother Noah. Don't be caught in your vehicle, in your little ark, in your little Saturn ark, you know, or your little Volkswagen ark. Don't be caught there with all your kids and grandkids and their smelly, sweaty, noisy friends when you're going out on the highway for a voyage of peace and bliss there, and the whining starts. You want to have something with you. You want to have this with you. You want to have this string band tape, because it'll just soothe them right down, or you can always, you know, turn it up to stun, you know, and drown them out. It's okay with us. You know, there are 15 songs of the Union and the Confederacy done in fine acoustical style by us, the 97th Regimental String Band. And, you know, you can't get these in stores. We can't get these in stores. But we've got just a few thousand left here, right up here. And during the break, which is coming up, and at the end of the concert, we will have them for sale right up there for you. Think of it as our very small little shrine to capitalism. Oh. Yeah, we'll
A
sell that
suicide.
one for
A suicide.
$9.99. Thank you. A rescuer just in time. He knows I can't bend down easily. He can see that from here. Man with good eyesight.
Dan has to know his limitations.
I didn't want to wipe out the first 10 rows. Friends, we got them, you want them. We have 7 different tapes available, plus we have no song repeated on any one of those 7 Civil War tapes, but for those with just a nautical bent in mind, we have a product which is all the nautical songs from the other 7 tapes right there for your pleasure and amusement. And we have them right there. Remember our slogan, 97 Regimental String Band tapes. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll kiss $10. Goodbye.
That was the emotional part of the show.
That's it. There are a few questions that remain unanswered in the annals of science. Like, why do we park in the driveway and drive in the parkway? What do you plant to get seedless grapes? Think about it. Where is Old Zealand? Huh? Do you know the answer to these questions? No, you don't. But the sailors only had one question.
What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? Early in the morning.
Sing no!
Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Early in the morning. Put him in a longboat, row him over. Put him in a longboat, row him over. Put him in a longboat, row him over. Early in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Early in the morning. Put him in a bilge and make him drink it. Put him in a bilge and make him drink it. Put him in a bilge and make him drink it. Early in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Early in the morning. Hanging from the rigging with a running bowling. Hanging from the rigging with a running bowling. Hanging from the rigging with a running bowling. Early in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Early in the morning. Put him in the scuppers with the hosepipe on him. Put him in the scuppers with the hosepipe on him. Put him in the scuppers with the hosepipe on him. Early in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Early in the morning. Lock him in the cabin with the captain's daughter. Lock him in the cabin with the captain's daughter. Lock him in the cabin with the captain's daughter. Early in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Early in the morning. Put him to polishing the brass and spit kicks. Put him to polishing the brass and spit kicks. Put him to polishing the brass and spit kicks. Early in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Early in the morning. Shave his belly with a rusty razor. Shave his belly with a rusty razor. Shave his belly with a rusty razor. Early in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Early in the morning. That's what you do with a drunken sailor. That's what you do with a drunken sailor. That's what you do with a drunken sailor. Early in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Early in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Early in the morning.
It is not very often that we get to sing songs that combine the two great sources of American music in the 19th century, the sea and the Irish. Is there anyone here with a little Irish in him? Aye, that's wonderful. Let's have a toast to the Irish, shall we? Oh, yes. Toast to the Irish. Raise your glasses now, real or imaginary. Come on, raise them up, 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 up. Even in the cheap seats, back up there now. Come on. Let's see. May the wind at your back never be your own. I think that's a pretty good toast.
Need some work.
There's one for the Scots, too, for the Scots here. Anyone with some Scotch in them?
Hi, the Scots.
There's some bourbon in them, I see, perhaps. Oh, here's for the Scots. This. Never, never, never use the hem of your kilt to wipe the sweat of your brow.
Words to live by.
Especially in February. Well, the Irish have a long history of not only music, but of being on the sea. Many of the sailors were of Irish heritage and Irish origin. And we often hear about maritime disasters. Seeing these great ships on the wall reminded me of how many of them probably met a sad end at sea, perhaps. You can name some of the great disasters of the Civil War. Of course, was the Sultana was the worst marine disaster ever. That was on the Mississippi River. But of course, the more recent ones that you might
Andrea Doria.
the Andrea Doria, the
Lusitania.
the Titanic.
Titanic.
Yes.
SS Minnow.
No, I don't think the minnow is here anywhere, and don't give them any ideas. This next song tells about a disaster which involves the Irish, because this maritime disaster took place entirely within the confines of the Emerald Isle. Come, all you dryland sailors, and listen to me song. It's only 40 verses, and I won't detain you as long. It's all about the adventures of this old Lisborn tar, who sailed as man before the mast on the good ship Calibar. Rum-tum-a-tiddle-i-tiddle-i, rum-tum-a-rum-tum-a-tiddle-i-day. Come on, aren't you Irish there now? You gotta sing the chorus now here. Rum-tum-a-tiddle-i, tiddle-i, tum-tum, rum-tum-tiddle-i-tay. You try it. Rum-tum-tiddle-i, tiddle-i, tum-tum, rum-tum-tiddle-i. See, that's just perfect. Perfect. There's no quiz on it. When the Calibar was a spanking craft, she bottomed fore and aft. Her helmet stuck out far behind, her wheel was a great big shaft. With half a gale to fill her sails, she'd do a knot per hour. She's the fastest barge on the Lagan Canal, and she's only 1 horsepower. Hi, rum-tum-a-tiddle-i-tiddle-i, rum-tum-a-rum-tum-a-tiddle-i-day. Well, the captain was a strapping lad, and he stood just 4'2". His hair was red, and his eyes was green, and his cheeks was a Prussian blue. He wore a leather medal, he'd won in the Crimea War, and the captain's wife was a passenger cook on the good ship Calibar. Hi, rum-tum-a-tiddle-i-tiddle-i, rum-tum-a-rum-tum-a-tiddle-i-day. Well, the captain says, look here, me lad, says he. Would you like to be a sailor and sail the raging sea? Would you like to be a sailor on foreign seas to roll? For we're on the roar to Porty Down with a half a ton of coal. Hi, rum-tum-a-tiddle-i-tiddle-i, rum-tum-a-rum-tum-a-tiddle-i-day. It was early next morning, the weather had been sublime. When passing under the old Queen Bridge, we heard the Albert chime. Then going along by the gasworks straight, a very dangerous part, we ran aground on a lump of coal that wasn't marked down on the chart. Hi, rum-tum-a-tiddle-i-tiddle-i, rum-tum-a-rum-tum-a-tiddle-i-day. Yeah, good idea.
It's catchy.
That was beautiful. But I still don't remember it.
All became confusion.
And all became confusion, and the stormy winds did blow. The boatswain slipped on an orange peel, fell into the hold below. The captain cried, put on more speed, for we are sorely pressed. But the engineer from the bank replied,
The horsey's doing his best.
Rum-tum-a-tiddle-i-tiddle-i, rum-tum-a-rum-tum-a-tiddle-i-day. Then we all fell into the water, when we all let out a roar. There was a farmer standing there, and he throws the end of his galluses in, and he pulls us all to shore. No more I'll be a sailor, nor sail the raging main. And the next time I go to Porty Down, I'll go by the bloody train. Hi, rum-tum-a-diddle-i-diddle-i, rum-tum-a-rum-tum-a-diddle-i-day. Hey! Mad Dog Luce. Thank you. Another Irish disaster averted.
Well, we found out when we first started doing these songs, we thought that that the Civil War soldiers and sailors would be singing the songs that were contemporary to the day, those that were written just within a year or so of the war. And we had some songs in our repertoire or our collective memories that went back earlier than that, some of the old folk songs that go back way old English folk songs. And we found out now by this time, we've eventually come to know that a good song back in this time lasted practically forever. There were quite a few Civil War parody songs that were written based on old English folk tunes and other folk tunes from centuries and centuries before. So a really good song, even though it had been written hundreds of years before, would still be around. This song actually is still being recorded today by modern artists.
The water is wide, I cannot get o'er, and neither have I wings to fly. Fetch me a boat that will carry two, and both shall roam, my love and I, down in the meadow t'other day, a gathering flowers, both fine and gay, a gathering flowers, both red and blue. I little thought what love can do. I put my hand into one soft bush, thinking the sweetest flower to own. I pricked my finger to the bone and left that sweetest flower alone. I leaned my back against an oak, thinking it was a trusty tree, but first it bended, then it broke, and so my love proved false to me. Where love is planted, there it grows. It blooms and blossoms like thumb rose. It has a sweet and a pleasant smell. No flower on earth can it excel. Oh, love is handsome and love is fine, and love is charming when 'tis new. But love grows cold as love grows old, and fades away like the morning dew. Must I be bound while she goes free? Must I love one who don't love me? Why must I act a foolish part and love the maid? 'Twill break my heart. There is a ship sailing on the sea. She's loaded deep, as deep can be, but not so deep as in love I am. I know not if I sink or swim. The water is wide, I cannot get o'er, and neither have I wings to fly. Fetch me a boat that will carry two, and both shall row, my love and I. Fetch me a boat that will carry two, and both shall row, my love and I.
And that dog Luce. Some of these songs you'll notice that we do, without the musical instruments, and we do these songs a cappella, which, as you well know, means without propellers. These were sailing ships, see? Everybody on board had a particular job to do, and of course we sort of admire the chanty man. He had very little to do except do the lyrics to the songs and memorize all the words that would keep the fellers moving and pulling on the ropes at the same time. But there were other songs about other people on board the ship. In particular, this is one of our favorites. A very little known song, actually. It's called Barney Buntline, which could be anybody on board, and whether his name is Barney or not, it doesn't matter. If he handled the buntline, he was known as Barney Buntline by all the crew. And I don't know how much weather you have, but we're from Florida, and we have things called hurricanes. And a lot of people, when they see a hurricane, they come in and they see the devastation. They went, oh, those poor sailors being out on a ship in such a thing as this. Well, we landsmen have, according to sailors, a somewhat skewed view of things. While we pity the poor sailors, they, out on their ships, think they're very, very safe on board, even those wooden ships, tossing and turning like corks in the blustering winds and waves. And here's a little song called Barney Buntline.
One night came on a hurricane, the sea was mountains rolling, when Barney Buntline chewed his quid and said to Billy Bolin, a strong nor'wester's blowing, Bill, hark, can't you hear it roar now? Lord help them, how I pities them unhappy folks on shore now, with the tow, row, row. Ride to me, Annie, with the tow, row, row. And as for them what lives in towns, what dangers they be all in, and now they quaking in their beds for fear their roof should fall in, while you and I, Bill, on the deck are comfortably lying. My eyes what tiles and chimney pots about their heads be flying, with the tow, row, row. Ride to me, Annie, with the tow, row, row. And as for them what's out all day on business from their houses, returning home so late at night to cheer their babes and spouses, poor creatures, how they envy us, and wishes I've a notion for our good luck in such a storm to be upon the ocean, with the tow, row, row. Ride to me, Annie, with the tow, row, row. The both of us have oft times heard how men are killed and undone by overturn of carriages, by thieves and fires of London. We know what risks all landsmen run, from noblemen to tailors. Then Bill, let us thank Providence that you and I be sailors, with the tow, row, row. Ride to me, Annie, with the tow, row, row.
There's the sailor's view of life. Of course, many of the songs and chants aboard ship were based upon true historical figures. Admiral Nelson was a prime example. He engendered many songs about him. But this one other fella, who was a Frenchie, he was, yes, indeed, a Frenchie, and much feared by all the other nations of the world, because he desired to be emperor of the world. And his name was, of course, Napoleon Bonaparte. And even though he was an enemy, they made up fine, good songs about Boney, as they called him. Your part in this, since most of you probably don't speak that Frenchy language there, is There are two parts to it, of course, like all good shanties, and your response should be way hey ya. That's the part where you actually pull on the rope if you want to, you know, smack your neighbor in front of you at that point. Don't do that, no. And Jean-Francois, which means in French, it means Jean-Francois. It means John the Frenchman.
Boney was a warrior, away, hey, a warrior, a terrier, Jean-Francois. Boney fought the Prussians, away, hey, and Boney fought the Russians, Jean-Francois. Boney went to Moscow, away, hey, across the Alps, across the snow, Jean-Francois. Moscow was a-blazing, away, hey, and Boney was a raging, Jean-Francois. Boney went to Elba, away, hey, and Boney he come back again, Jean-Francois. Boney went to Waterloo, away, hey, and there he got his overthrew, Jean-Francois. They took Boney off again, away, hey, aboard the Billy Ruffian, Jean-Francois. Boney he got sent away, away, hey, away to St. Helena, Jean-Francois. Boney broke his heart and died, away, hey, away in St. Helena, Jean-Francois. Boney was a warrior, away, hey, a warrior, a terrier, Jean-Francois.
Before we say a final goodnight to you with our two favorite songs, did I mention that we have tapes and CDs for sale? Yes, it's true. And each one of these is made the old-fashioned way, just the way they made tapes back in the 19th century. Yes, it's true. As I stand before you today, my sainted grandmother sits at home by the kitchen table, knitting each one of these tapes by hand out of the very finest steel wool, knitting into the warp and the woof every inch of this tape, the words and the music, and it's not for us, it's for you. It's for each one of you, and you wouldn't want to disappoint that poor old woman. I know you wouldn't. I told Grandma before I left Florida, I said, Granny, if enough of them fine folks up there at Columbus, Georgia, enough of them fine folks buy our tapes, why, I'm going to come home and I'm going to untie you from that kitchen table. You know, and her little face just lighted right up. You know, she's like that. And she knitted even faster, which is good because, again, as I say, we have 7 different tapes, 7 different CDs, and a special nautical tape. And it's all for you, friends, all just for you. And, you know, I have to mention it because tape sales haven't been what they used to be. We don't get a penny of the money from the sale of this tape. No. My sister's going to have an operation. When my baby sister was born, when that poor little girl was born, her right ear had a 2-pound earlobe on it. Her earlobe was 2 pounds. And her left ear had no lobe at all. You remember my sister, Eileen? You remember her. It's true. It's all true.
Crowd's turning ugly.
Some of them came in that way. Well, friends, you know, when we take up enough money from fine folks like you, we're going to hire us a microsurgeon. I said a microsurgeon, one of them little bitty tiny doctors. And he's going to climb up on her shoulder and snoop a little off here and attach it over here so she can lead an upright life. And it'll be thanks to you. And I mean this from my bottom to my heart when I say, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you buy our 97th Regimental string band tapes. We just have a few thousand left. And we hope you'll buy them. Remember our slogan, you'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll kiss $10. Goodbye. They remember. I'd like to finish with the 2 most famous songs of the Union and the Confederacy. Sing along, if you will.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on.
Sing now, you know it.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. I have seen him in the watch 5 have read a fiery gospel writ in burnished rows of steel. As ye deal with my contender, so with you my grace shall deal. Let the hero born of woman crush the serpent with his heel, since God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. He has sounded forth the trumpet that shall never call retreat. He is sifting out the hearts of men before his judgment seat. Oh, be swift, my soul, to answer heavenly jubilant at my feet. Our God is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. In the beauty of the lilies, Christ was born across the sea, with the glory in his bosom that transfigures you and me. As he died to make men holy, let us die to make men free, while God is marching on.
Every voice now.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
Keep singing. Powerful good singing.
That was one of the more popular songs in the North during the war. A lady by the name of Julia Ward Howe sat down and, in the space of 24 hours, composed 5 new verses using an old Southern Methodist hymn tune. She sat down and composed 5 new verses for the song. Nowhere in the song did she mention the Civil War, because she wanted it to be a good church hymn that would live past the war, and she succeeded in that. That was one of the more popular songs in the North. The most popular song in the South, without a doubt, was written by a Northern gentleman, Daniel Decatur Emmett. He sat down in the space of 24 hours, composed 5 verses for his song. Nowhere in his song does he mention the Civil War, because he wrote it a year or so before the war. Actually, it's a love song. Not many folks know that because they've never heard all 5 verses. You're in luck tonight. You're going to get the whole dose. This song actually was very popular in the North at the beginning of the war, and it's always been one of President Lincoln's favorite songs.
It is?
He doesn't request it much anymore.
No. Starts with a yee-haw. May I have one? Very good.
I wish I was in the land of cotton, old times I have not forgotten. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. In Dixie's land where I was born, and early on one frosty morning. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. And I wish I was in Dixie, hooray, hooray. In Dixie's land I'll take my stand, live and die in Dixie. Away, away, away down south of Dixie. Away, away, away down south of Dixie. Oh, Mrs. Mary, Willie Weaver, William was a gay deceiver. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. When he put his arm around her, smiled as fierce as a 40-pounder. Look away, look away, look away.
Now sing, y'all.
And I wish I was in Dixie, hooray, hooray. In Dixie's land I'll take my stand, live and die in Dixie. Away, away, away down south of Dixie. Away, away, away down south of Dixie. His face was sharp as a butcher's cleaver, but that did not seem to grieve her. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. Oh, Mrs. acted a foolish part, died for a man that broke her heart. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. And I wish I was in Dixie, hooray, hooray. In Dixie's land I'll take my stand, live and die in Dixie. Away, away, away down south of Dixie. Away, away, away down south of Dixie. Now here's a help to the next old missus, and all the gals that want to kiss us. Look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. But if you want to drive away sorrow, come and hear this song tomorrow. Look away, look away, look away.
Now sing.
And I wish I was in Dixie, hooray, hooray. In Dixie's land I'll take my stand, live and die in Dixie. Away, away, away down south of Dixie. Away, away, away down south of Dixie.
Ah.
fatter makes you fat, oh little fatter, look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. Then hold it down and scratch your gravel, Dixieland, I'm bound, travel, look away, look away, look away, Dixieland. And I wish I was in Dixie, hooray, hooray, in Dixie's land I'll take my stand, live and die in Dixie. Away, away, away down south Dixie, away, away, away down south in Dixie.
Now say yeehaw. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. We want, oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You want one more? I guess we could give you one more. Okay, one more. Just wait for the wagon, is it? More? Oh, yeah, more. Okay, sit down. We'll give you one more. I know how you folks want your money's worth and all that. But we, again, we do appreciate your coming out, and if you do buy tape or CD, that's okay too. But even if you don't buy anything at all, remember that you need to do what it is that we do, and that is keep the old songs, your old songs, right where they belong. In your heads, in your hearts, and keep them in your mouths. Keep singing the old songs, because that's the way the little kids learn them, and that's the way that we all learn them, and we want to keep our heritage alive through music.
Won't you come with me, my Philistine, to yonder mountain free, where blossoms smell the sweetest? Come rove along with me. It's every Sunday morning when I am by your side. We'll jump into the wagon and we'll all take a ride. I say wait for the wagon, wait for the wagon, yes wait for the wagon, and we'll all take a ride. Where the river runs like silver and the birds they sing so sweet.
You know what a 500-pound canary says?
And something good to eat. Come listen
kitty,
to
kitty,
my
here,
story.
kitty, kitty.
It will relieve my heart. So jump into the wagon and off we will start. I say wait for the wagon, wait for the wagon, yes wait for the wagon, and we'll all take a ride. Do you believe my Philistine, old Mike with all his wealth, could make you half so happy as I with youth and health? We'll have a little farm, a horse, a pig and cow, and you will mind the dairy while I do guide the plow. I say wait for the wagon, wait for the wagon, yes wait for the wagon, and we'll all take a ride. Your lips are red as poppy, your hair so slick and neat, all braided up with dahlias and a hollyhock so sweet. It's every Sunday morning when I am by your side. We'll jump into the wagon and we'll all take a ride. I say wait for the wagon, wait for the wagon, yes wait for the wagon, and we'll all take a ride.
On the claw and the banjo, the fiddle and the mandolin, Mr. Gabe Luce. With the pretty vocals and the good old guitar, Mr. Mad Dog Luce. And with the corny jokes and the bass line, it's me, Rick Roman. We are glad to be inside
Together on life's journey we'll travel till we stop, and if we have no trouble we'll reach the happy top. So come with me, my Phyllis, my dear, my lovely